Battle of Hastings, the death of one man changed the course of history. The Anglo-Saxon King Harold...
For more than a few years now, Age of Empires has seemed like one of the old masters, sitting back, observing what the younger generations have done with the secrets it once taught. Since the last new Age of Empires game, Age of Empires 3 in 2005, the genre it helped to mould has diversified pretty massively. This year saw the release of Humankind, for example, a game that felt in many ways like a progression for the Civilization sim as a whole, but which, importantly, still used many of the tropes pioneered by Ensemble's title. With Age of Empires 4, the old master has emerged from retirement, but is it still the once and future king, or should it have stayed on bed rest?
Hey, Adam from GodIsAGeek.com here. Sorry to interrupt, but if you wouldn't mind just hitting the big old subscribe button and maybe the bell to notify you of every new video we release, we'd be really grateful. Thank you so much and enjoy the video.
That's actually a difficult question to answer. On one hand, there's a self-assuredness to it and, dare I say, swagger to the way Age of Empires 4 presents itself. This is a series that knows itself, and that's clear from the get-go, but there's also the sense that it knows the genre has moved on in certain areas, but is not willing to risk falling behind by trying to move ahead. As a result, its hallowed return, while welcome, comes with almost zero innovation. In a genre that typically takes risks to stay current and fresh, Age of Empires 4 feels almost ironically safe. Perhaps the biggest addition is the way it tells its stories. There are 4 narrative campaigns, each separated into 9 missions: the Norman conquest of England, the rise of Moscow, the 100 Years' War and the Mongol invasion of China. After completing the first 2 missions of the Norman conquest, you're free to jump into any of the other campaigns. They're presented as histories, albeit with some pretty huge artistic liberties. Missions are interspersed with documentary-style cutscenes, skillfully narrated and with a mix of real video and animation. If nothing else, the production values of these documentaries makes them feel authentic and real. For anyone but history buffs, I'd hesitate to call them exciting exactly, but they're well made and informative. They set the scene well and feel visually different from the rest of the game without feeling out of place. Once you're in the campaigns themselves, though, it's business as usual, which honestly didn't leave me feeling shortchanged. Building up your fledgling economies is clearly explained and easy to get the hang of. Expansion of your towns and cities feels natural and organic, and it won't take you long to get a handle on the basics of managing your resources. Gold, wood, food and stone are 4 cornerstones of each empire. The skill comes from identifying the best locations for each of your structures and maintaining the balance between societal progression and military might. Within the 17 skirmish maps, you can set certain seeds to determine how things will pan out, from combat difficulty and enemy density to how aggressive your neighbours are and how abundant certain resources will be. In the campaigns, these choices are mostly taken away, and you'll begin the majority of missions with clear objectives and resources or vantage points you'll need to secure as soon as possible. Each of the 4 main civilizations, although there are 8 in total, have different strengths and weaknesses. The Mongols, for example, aren't great at resource gathering, but they're built for war. They can train units quicker than the other factions, and their nomadic nature removes the cost of uprooting and moving buildings. They also pull resources from simply destroying enemy buildings. The Russians in the Moscow campaign, on the other hand, barely have time to build huge armies, as you're constantly forced to defend and adapt against the Mongols. Narratively, the Moscow campaign may be the strongest too. Something about it feels more compelling than, say, the 100 Years' War, but maybe only because I've seen the latter story told many times in many mediums. Either way, the narrative isn't what we're here for, and thankfully the gameplay is tremendous across all modes. It also helps that Age of Empires 4 looks so good, with heaps of detail in environments, buildings and units. As you progress each faction through 4 historical eras, they will advance aesthetically, at the same time unlocking new buildings and units to construct and train. Resource management is straightforward, but there are some elements of unit control that could be a little less fiddly. For example, you can assign numerical groups to different unit types, archers as number 1, cavalry as 2, etc. But it'd be easier to just have a portrait somewhere to select specific units and quantities. Often, martial success comes from unit placement and strategic thinking, and being able to jump between groups quicker would be helpful. Also, if your primary force is annihilated, it takes a long time to build up a second army. You can set rally points and such to make things simpler, but the option to either spend more resources to train faster or have reinforcements move a little bit quicker during an active battle or siege would have been useful. Speaking of which, large-scale sieges are pretty fun despite being massive resource drains. The system isn't deep or strategic enough to lead to lengthy battles of attrition, but having to hammer away An enemy fortress while hurrying to produce extra units and keep the resources flowing feels oddly exhilarating. The diplomacy and political elements are kept to a minimum here though, and often warfare is the quickest and easiest solution to any kind of stalemate. Age of Empires 4 then feels like something of an effortless masterclass in planning and waging war. There's not much evidence of Relic even attempting to innovate or take risks, yet it still seems to stand shoulders above many of its contemporaries. Forget all that fancy guff it seems to say, let me show you how it's done. And by and large that's exactly what it does. Some quality of life improvements would be nice but are no means necessary. Extra fractions and maps are sure to come despite the already robust launch package, so it's hard to find any particularly damning complaints. Those expecting some kind of revolution may be disappointed, and there are more complex and arguably more involving RTS titles available today, but Age of Empires 4 is still a confident, deep and hugely compelling example of how to do this right. For that reason, I'm going to score it a 9 out of 10. Hey there, thanks for checking out our review of Age of Empires 4. It's currently available on PC and you can pick it up via Game Pass if you're a member. If you liked the review, please hit like and subscribe, maybe tag that bell icon too so you're kept up to date with everything that we post going forward. And if you want to support us via Patreon, you can go ahead and do that. There's a Discord setup that you can jump into, and we really appreciate everything that you guys do for us. It helps us keep doing this for you. In the meantime, I've been Mick Fraser for GIAG, and you guys have been lovely. Bye.